what's an effective way to layer a frictionless fraud prevention at onboarding? So onboarding, I think it really speaks to fintech companies and crypto companies who maybe 2 years ago were doing, let's say, onboarding at all costs. You can say that. Let's bring volumes, like let's bring as many people as you can. Let's make huge campaigns in social media and try to open the top of the funnel as much as we can. But I think now, especially with the stressful economic era that we are entering, we are seeing much more balanced approach when it comes to onboarding. So frictionless onboarding can be achieved if you take all the signals that you get from the applicant during his onboarding journey and you look at them separately. So you understand all the different elements of the PII. You understand what risk associated with their email, what risk associated with their phone number, what risk associated with their address. How's the correlation working between the actual entity and the emails and the phone and the address? What is the risk associated with the device? Can we learn something about the device? Do we think this device is a legit device? So maybe somebody using some type of emulators. So if you are able to take all those elements apart, and this is also a good way to look for an identity verification vendor. Try to find a vendor who gives you all those different elements and give you insights on all those different elements. And then you can pretty much start layering your risk strategy around those different PIIs and say, okay, you know, if the PIIs looks good, let's see how the email looks. Let's see how the phone looks. Let's see what we know about the address, and put different thresholds and different signals in place to make sure you're actually catching the bad guys. And I think Connor can show you how we orchestrate the verification process within Unit21. Connor?
Yeah, absolutely. So I built this example verification workflow using a couple different data sources. In this case, we're going to be using Socure data and some data from Prove. And what you'll see here is that we have 3 end states for these users, and each of these connections is going to include some logic that incorporates the data we're collecting. So in our first case here, if we see low scores for all of the risk signals that you're getting for synthetic fraud risk, identity fraud risk, email, phone, address risk, and they're not on any alert lists, then we can automatically accept this user. Now, in the other case, we can see that if we get any really high scores for any of these, then we can automatically reject this user. And we'll have our default state, if the user in question doesn't meet either of those criteria, be that we're going to send them to some secondary screening. And this is where we're going to look at another couple data points where we might look for a Prove trust score or an abuse score from Centrelink. And the thing to point out here is that Unit21 can ingest any data point from any third-party provider, and then you can use our verifications platform to write rules on this data that automate a frictionless onboarding workflow. And so we've set up this 2-tiered waterfall onboarding flow where we can either auto accept a user, auto reject a user, or if it ends up being totally inconclusive, we can set up manual verification. And we can set this to create an alert in Unit21 so that your team that is reviewing these cases will automatically get an alert with all of the collected information and be able to review that account application and make a decision on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also important to keep monitoring the actual percentage of auto approvals, rejection, and manual review. And I think I have many colleagues, and I was used to practice this way myself. Is, you know, you wake up in the morning, you start your day, and the first thing you do is you go and you look at the funnel. How many customers were auto onboarded? How many customers were rejected yesterday? How many customers went to manual review? This is a great way, if you look at it on a day-to-day basis, this is a great way for you as a fraud fighter to understand how balanced your strategy is. And if you suddenly see a spike suddenly in rejections, then you're probably under some type of fraud attack during onboarding. Or you see a spike in manual verification, it means that, okay, either one of my steps are being too strict, either I'm, you know, checking for way too many signals, or again, I'm under some type of attack. And I think also a great way to put a safety net right at the end of onboarding journey is, if you're really not sure, but you still don't want to reject your applicant, I think document verification comes to place, and it's a great safety net you can use to really try verify the identity of this applicant. So this is pretty much how we go about having frictionless fraud prevention at onboarding. For the machine learning lovers in the audience, I would also say that if you look to leverage machine learning in your onboarding process, it's a great way to put the machine learning before you start the KYC. So for example, if the machine can detect a potential bad applicant, sometimes financially, if you think about it, it's not even worth to send them through the KYC process. But you can have to keep feeding the machine on how good applicants and how bad applicants looking at your platform. And if you can achieve that, you can also save a lot of money on your KYC.